I'd like to introduce our Chapter 93 Vice President last year and coming into the new team this upcoming year, Neil Robinson. And Neil is here to present the service awards and the service awards that we do every year for our chapter. And I'm going to present his service award for, well, he's getting two, I guess, right? For Flight Advisor and for Vice President. So, Neil, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll let you continue with the presentations.
Great. Thank you. So, oh, these are out of order, aren't they?
Now you're going to give me mine.
Okay. Well, I had intended to start with Shane because it's alphabetical.
Okay.
So put that one there. That's now. So, can everybody hear me? Yep. Great. Okay. So I decided to start handing these out alphabetically so that, to avoid any appearance of favoritism. So it turns out that the first one in the alphabet, I'm not at the beginning of the alphabet. Anyway, the first one is Shane Baker, who gets 4 awards for Chapter President, Outgoing President, Scholarship Coordinator, Web Editor, and Young Eagles Coordinator. So I'll deliver these to Shane. Next, alphabetically, is Al Barger, who is technical counselor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Gil Barros. Is Gil here tonight? Nope. Okay. Gil Barros is also a technical counselor. We'll deliver that to him probably at his hangar. And the next one alphabetically is Andy Barassa, who is Young Eagles Coordinator. Thank you, Andy. And next one is Dan Coyne, IMC Club Coordinator. No, Dan not here tonight. Okay. And next one alphabetically is Tanya Cunningham, who has been our scholarship coordinator for the most of the last year or so.
Can I just briefly have our current and past scholars stand up? So I know Lauren is here, and James and Simon.
Hey, how about Aiden?
Aiden's here too. Four of our 11 successful scholars. So next is Mark Jacobson, Young Eagles Coordinator. Is Mark here? Well, apparently not. Okay. And Tom James, Chapter Secretary. Thank you, Tom. And 2 for Steve Myers, Treasurer and Membership Coordinator. Thank you for your service, Steve.
Thank you.
And for VMC Program Coordinator, Sarah Posdell. Sarah here tonight?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Thank you. And for Flight Advisor, Robert Ward. Bob here tonight?
Nope.
We didn't let him out of the home.
That's it.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Well, thank you to all of the outgoing and continuing club leaders. This is what is the people who step up and actually fulfill the roles, the leadership roles that make the club work. Plus all the volunteers who pitch in for things like the fly-in breakfast, this event, and the Bombers Weekend. So a big round of applause to everybody who volunteers to make this organization work. Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah.
You're next.
All right. Set a timer. 5 minutes and we're done. Okay, we sent out a survey this last whatever, and Survey Monkey, if you don't like them, spank them, okay? I really hope any people in the chapter would try and fill out that survey. It takes maybe 15 minutes. The whole idea is we want to find out what you want us to do the next year and the next year, okay? We need more input. We need ideas. We don't just need the 7 people on the board of directors deciding what you should do. So could I have the new board stand up, please? Come on, Jeff. Come on, Roger. Kara. Okay. These people are open to any of your comments, ideas, and so forth. And like Neil said, we really do need input, okay? And we want to know which way you want to go, where we should put our resources and our time, okay? So if you want to send me ideas or whatevers, that's my email address. And until we get a new website set up, that's going to have to work, okay? We need to do a lot of changes. And then the other thing I will suggest is this year we're really going to try and get sponsorship for our youth scholarships. We need about $6,000. So if any of you have a few extra dollars in your account at the end of the year and you have a giving kind of feeling, or if you work for someone who supports really cool causes, like Neil said, we've garnered about $120,000 from Oshkosh for flight training. For Aiden, Aiden's at the Air Force Academy right now. Simon, where are you going to be? Come on. What did you tell me you were going to do? All right. Okay, cool. All right, Lauren, how about you? Woo! Very cool. So anyway, I know a lot of the companies that you folks work for do giving. We are a 501c3. So if it doesn't happen this year, please put the word out to your teams, to your scholarship teams. We have a very solid treasurer. And if they have any questions how to hook it up with us, we are more than happy to explain our program, where the money goes directly. It's not going in to a large fund. It's going to be segregated just for scholarships, okay? And primarily for youth, because I think we do need more EMS pilots, more missionary pilots, airline pilots, or people who just want to better themselves, much like Lauren is saying. It did, wouldn't you say, Brent, make her a better person? And you guys get along better now? Okay, again, I'd like to thank the Cornets for letting us use this beautiful facility. And to help us maybe be able to come back here, put your recycles in here, but empty them first, because I don't want to carry a really heavy bag, all right? So dump them outside, dump them in the sink. Pretty easy, right? Mom's not here tonight. And garbage in here, please. And take as much of your stuff home as you can. All right, so we cleaned up the place, talked about scholarships. And my last pitch is, if you like this event, please tell friends, neighbors. They don't have to be pilots. They can just be curious about science, math, and fun. And what we like to do is every month, we're going to have an event like this. The 4th Thursday of every month at 6:30. The 22nd of January, we are having 6 to 7, I know this is shocking, but people under 30 years old who are pilots, CFIs, professional pilots, and mechanics. So you won't see us old people be in the crowd, but we're going to hear what the future of aviation is, what their challenges have been, and what they want to do next. So January 22nd, 6:30. You're not going to get this much food though, okay? Then the next month, we have our all-star. Cover your ears, please, Alice. Russ is going to share much of his history in the aviation world and hilarious stories, but also some life lessons, okay? And no, we're not. I told her she's got the night off. And then the next week, our good friend Bob Davis is going to open up his hangar and show us his T6. That will be in March. And he might even tell us how he learned to fly it. And then from there, we're wide open. Like I said, ideas, please. There are some incredible people at this airport, the Wanakee Airport, Sauk, maybe. And, you know, we are a community. We're not stuck. This is an EA sponsored deal. But we want women in aviation here. We want Wanakee Area Pilots Association here. And we'll even take people off the street, okay? All right, that's more than 5. Thank you. So
Jeff introduces Jeff. Oh, we have another greeter. Tim Cornett, Lisa Bennett, where are you? Lisa.
roll out the red carpet.
Thank you, first of all, everybody for being here. It's just really great to see our community together. I would love to have everyone who was involved with setup over the last few weeks either stand up or raise your hand. I want you guys to give a hand for all the people that provided decorations, chairs and tables, Russ, Patty. It does take a lot to put something together, but it really is a labor of love. The message I wanted to bring is that there are so many opportunities with our chapter, and one of the biggest ones is what we're doing here. It's the opportunity to have a social connection. It's been a rough year for a lot of people, and a rough year on the planet, a rough year for our country, and there are people who struggle with health issues in their families. There are people who have lost others. And when we have an opportunity to come together here in our community from different political beliefs, different religious backgrounds, different interests, it really is a place where we can call this home. And one of the things that I have back here, those of you who knew Randy Campen, who worked the front desk at Maury for many, many years, and actually Patty told me a great little story that the day Patty soloed, just her and Randy were in the air in the pattern. What year was that, Patty, if I may ask you?
Oh, boy.
1987. Anyway, some of you know that Randy, I had an opportunity to support Randy getting into dementia care at Brookdale here in Middleton. And she was also an artist, a medical illustrator, and in her home, I found all of these shirts and sweatshirts. They're double XLs, they're XLs, they're larges. We had the idea of taking them to the Brookdale Center, but they said that could potentially be disturbing because you don't understand as people progress what might occur. So they are here as a gift to you if you've been nice. If you've been naughty, you can have one and give them, and now you get to be nice. And if you'd like to, there's a box for donations, and anything that goes in there will be from Chapter 93. She loves dark chocolate, so I'll be bringing her chocolate and anything that the facility over on Stonefield Road may need. So before you leave tonight, if you'd like a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, if you take the top one, just put the sticky back on there so people know it's short sleeve or long sleeve. There's a couple different designs that she made, and that's for you. So thank you for being here.
Well, I guess we're going to dim the lights pretty soon. So I'd like to introduce somebody you probably know already, but it's kind of fun. You probably won't meet a more interesting and passionate aviation kind of guy. And I must say, next to Rhonda, his girlfriend, maybe Joe and Jim, I've slept with Jeff more than any of them. Because flying to Alaska takes a long time. But it was a wonderful event, and this guy is full of vim and vinegar. And why the hell you'd leave a nice, warm house and fly to Alaska in the winter? I'll let him go.
Well, hey, everyone. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
And thanks for the chapter for having me tonight. I'm going to present over here on the screen. What I thought, though, with the people way in the back, maybe we could move some of these tables out and we could line chairs up and do kind of a more, bring some people up this way? Does that sound all right? Or is that going to be complete chaos?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to get the projector going. I'm going to grab a bottle of water.
Thank you. Oh, I like that. Professional. Oh, look.
A dozen or so years, maybe a few more. I also have a hangar here at the Middleton Airport that I've had since 2009. But one of the things I do in addition to just being a pilot is I volunteer for the Recreational Aviation Foundation. Who's heard of the Recreational Aviation Foundation? Wow, that's fantastic. So we claim to be the third largest aviation organization, you know, AOPA, EAA, and then RAF. And I'm on the board of directors. I've been on it for a few years now, and it's our mission is to create, improve, and preserve recreational airstrips. We like to think we're like Ducks Unlimited. Ducks Unlimited isn't about ducks. They're about duck habitat. We're about airplane habitat. We're about the airstrips. Because without airstrips, our airplanes don't do us much good. This particular presentation doesn't have a lot of RAF stuff in it, but I can tell you the relationships I made in Alaska through the RAF were really, really valuable in this trip. So, in December of 2022, it was one of those Decembers where it was gray and gloomy and, it was kind of a little depressing. I thought, well, what am I going to do this winter? I participate on this website called SuperCub.org, and I posted, hey, lack of sunlight in Wisconsin appears to be affecting me. I've hatched this idea. I'm going to fly my SuperCub to Alaska on skis and follow the Iditarod sled dog race. And I think in here I also, hey, anybody got suggestions? How should I do it? How should I prepare? All the rest. And this community I've been part of for 20 years now, they dumped an amazing amount of information on me on how to do it. It was really cool. How many people are familiar with the Iditarod sled dog race? Pretty much. I asked this like down south somewhere, and people are like, well, what's that? But up here the Iditarod sled dog race, I think the year that I did it was at the 53rd year, somewhere around there. I might not have that right, but it goes from just north of Anchorage and Willow, and it follows a trail, and then there's either a north loop or a south loop. They do in alternating years, and it goes all the way to Nome, Alaska, 1,000 miles. There are no roads in this part of Alaska. This is a snowy sled dog trail is all it is. Now, snow machines run on as well, but it's a pretty amazing race. And the race, unfortunately, is a little bit being threatened. Groups like PETA have said they're cruel to the dogs. I'll speak to that a little bit later in the presentation. I don't believe that at all, but it's really taken the popularity of the Iditarod down, and they've lost a lot of sponsors as a result. And there's a little bit more detail on the course. It goes through the Alaska Range right here. So people familiar with Denali, right? Mount McKinley are now known as Denali. 20,000 feet high is not too far. It's in the Alaska Range. It's not too far from where the trail goes through the range. So you can imagine what that's like. It's a pretty amazing trip. So that's what I flew to Alaska. I left on February 24th, 2023. And I have Trick Air wheel skis that I put on it. You can see I got some snowshoes on there. I got some hiking poles that go with the snowshoes. But my Cub is, it's a 1951 L21A. So it's a Super Cub that was originally sold to the military. And it's got about 53 modifications on it, bush plane modifications. So it's pretty well set up for this. I hadn't ever done a winter trip like this, but I had thought I'm going to do some winter flying. So I rebuilt this airplane. I bought it in 2005. And in 2007, I took it apart for a 1-year rebuild. And 6.5 years later, I got it back in the air. How many birds nests did you win? Yeah, it was a project. So this was originally 120 horse, and now it's 160. But it's got, like I said, 53 different bush mods on it. It's absolutely an amazing airplane for what I'm doing with it. It's got a high output heater, a muffler or the heat muff on the muffler for putting heat into the cockpit. It's got a defroster. It's got a rear seat heat. It's really, really set up well for what I did with it. So a little bit about the trip up to Alaska from Middleton. It's a roughly 3,000 statute mile trip. Middleton's down here. I went up across the border into Canada. You can see the vast majority of the trip is through Canada, right? There's the Alaska border right there. People say, wow, you did that in the winter by yourself? Nobody around? I said, yeah, well, I carried an inReach, right, which is a satellite messenger, but it also dropped a pin every 2 minutes to show where I was. But I also have done this trip previously, and I said, I'm not going to cut the corners and get as far out in the wilderness as maybe I have in the past. So I stayed near the roads. I figured if I had an engine problem and the plane quit, at least I'm going to put it down near a road, and there's a chance they're going to get to me sooner than, maybe days or weeks, depending upon if you're out in the middle of nowhere. I was really fortunate. A friend from Alaska loaned me his hot tent. This is an Arctic oven. You can actually run a stove in it. It's got what's called a stove jack, a hole in the top that you can run a stovepipe up through. So that I had the Arctic oven with me. And so now here I am on the trip. So the first night I got all the way from Middleton up to Yorkton, Saskatchewan. And there's a view of the sunset at Yorkton that night. It was just beautiful, and you can kind of see the glow around the sun. Those are ice crystals in the air. That was actual temperature, not wind chill. It actually got to minus 42. So people that are familiar, Celsius and Fahrenheit, minus 42 is where they're equal. Doesn't matter what temperature it is. It's minus 42. It was cold, but I'll tell you, this airplane was set up. I bought some Carhartt Yukon Extreme bibs and jacket, and Carhartt's warmest gear, and it served me really, really well. So anyway, the second and third nights, I was in Fort St. John, British Columbia. The reason I was there 2 nights is weather kind of started to set in. And you'll see in here, it took me 7 days to get to Alaska. Jeff Plants and I did it in 2018 in 3 days. I did it this year with Jim and Joe in 4 days. It took me 7 days in winter to do it. And everybody can understand why, right? It's just the weather really deals some. So there's a look down at the control stick. That's the rear seat heat tube blowing on my hands. My hands aren't there, but that's how I kept my hands warm. It's minus 42, and I thought, I'm actually not that uncomfortable. I'm actually, I'm kind of decent. The other thing, and I don't know if I haven't, but you got to stop air leaks. So blue 2-inch painter's tape, you tape all the door openings, all the window openings, you tape everything shut. You can't have air coming in because you can have all the heat in the world. If you have a minus 42 air leak, you're done. So you got to tape everything off. Okay, I got ahead of myself. There's an example of the SuperCub door with what I did with the tape. And when you do it, you land, you open the door, the tape pulls loose, you ball it up, you throw it away, you got your big roll of painter's tape, and you just tape up again next time. It's a really important thing. Here I am coming into Fort St. John. This is I think the Peace River. Just a gorgeous, it was an evening coming in. I took the picture because it was one of those special, beautiful golden hour with the sun being low. And then I get up there and I connected with Dieter and Karen. And Dieter builds experimental SuperCubs. And I saw experimental SuperCub after experimental SuperCub. And then Dieter and Karen reached out to some friends. And one of their friends happens to have a heated hangar in the area. So again, building relationships within the Cub community and within the RAF community is just amazing. A little farther along the way, I'm up to Watson Lake. This is kind of a famous airport on the ALCAN, the Alaska-Canada Highway. If you remember back in World War II, when we were actually allies with Russia, there was the Lend-Lease program where we were flying a lot of our airplanes over to Russia, and this was a common stop for them up on the Alcan. There's an old World War II hangar, right? We've seen hangars like this around, but this is one of the iconic ones if you go up this way. Weather wasn't always that great. So that's the Alaska-Canada Highway that I'm flying down. I'm using it as a guide of where to go. And the weather was kind of scuzzy that day. Fourth night, I made it up to Whitehorse, Yukon territories. And I was like, hey, we're making some good progress here. I only had one extra night so far, one delay, but this was a nice spot. Here's Whitehorse. It's a big airport up in the middle of nowhere. I actually rented a heated hangar for the night. You don't want to know how much I paid for it. It was expensive, but I got in. I didn't want to be out again. It was minus 20 something up here. The next morning I leave out of Whitehorse, and it was one of these magic. I had to leave early. I left an hour before sunrise because I had to meet customs at a certain point coming into Alaska, and they would only meet me at 9 a.m. There was no other options. So I had to leave an hour before sunrise. And you think, wow, you're in the mountains. You're going to leave before sunrise in the mountains? Well, the neat thing was it was a beautiful, clear night, and you could see I could see all the mountains. It was like daylight. I mean, it was really, really beautiful. But the neat part of the flight, the really, really neat part of the flight, is I'm flying, it kind of joggles to the west, and I'm going to the west. And the sun starts coming up. Does everybody know what alpenglow is? Or do you know what alpenglow is? So it's the glow on the horizon. It's not where the sun is, but it's on the opposite horizon. It's the color, it's the alpenglow. I experienced that morning here something, it was one of the most beautiful mornings I've ever experienced in my life. It's minus 20, I don't know, something. I'm cruising along, and the mountain, the horizon is turning pink and purple ahead of me. And it's like, you're like a little kid. You get giddy. The beauty is overwhelming. And I wanted to open my window because anybody that does aviation photography, they know that taking it through plexiglass doesn't result in a good picture. Well, there was no opening windows that morning. It was a special, and then the glow starts changing, and the sun behind me starts tickling the tops of the mountains ahead of me. It was an amazing, amazing morning that I just will never forget. I had a hell of a tailwind. I'm doing 140 miles an hour ground speed. And interestingly, usually wind in mountains means violent turbulence. It was a silk smooth air. It was unbelievable. Doing 140 miles an hour in an airplane that's probably only going 95. I mean, I had a 45 mile an hour tailwind. I was ripping. It was just there's the temperature where I was going, Northway, Alaska, minus 29 degrees Fahrenheit that morning. And so at the end of that day, I cleared customs. I end up in Tok. Just after Tok, there's Mentasta Pass and Tanita Pass, and the weather was bad. So I ended up spending a little extra time in Tok, and then I got through one of the passes because here you are in Tok, and you're like, I'm in Alaska. I'm almost there. I can almost see, north of Anchorage where I was going, except I got two mountain passes that are all snowed in. I can't get there. So I start texting friends from Alaska. Hey, I'm looking at these cameras. I don't know if people are familiar with, we don't have weather cameras around here, the FAA, but they have weather cameras up in Alaska. And the weather cameras are amazing tools because they let you see in the past. And I could see that it wasn't going to happen. But talking to friends, one of them came back to me and said, nibble off of a little bit. If you can get through one of those passes, nibble it off today. Get somewhere. He said, and don't push your luck, but if you can make it through, get something done because at least you're a little farther ahead. Now you only have one pass to deal with. So that next day, I got through Mentasta Pass, and fortunately, another SuperCub friend hooked me up with Copper Valley Air, and I had a room to stay in with heat. I got there. They said, "Hey, we're getting pizza. Why don't you join in?" Kind of neat thing about Copper Valley Air, they're in Gulkana. They have the mail contract for delivering the mail to McCarthy, Alaska, which is right inside of Wrangell St. Elias National Park. They got a 185 on Airglass 4000 retractable wheel skis, and they're Tuesdays and Thursdays, every Tuesday and Thursday, they fly the mail into McCarthy, Alaska. They also have the FedEx contract and the UPS contract. Pretty good gig. But I'll tell you, they do some interesting flying. I got to help load the mail plane. I thought that was pretty cool. There's my SuperCub. Looking a little wintry, isn't it? There was a ton of snow in Gulkana. There's some of the other planes that maybe hadn't flown in a little while in Gulkana. And here I am. I made it to north of Anchorage, up near Wasilla and Palmer. A good friend, Gary McCarthy, invited me to stay with him, and made it up to Gary's place. I guess it'd be the 7th day. So there's my trip up there. I just threw on here for fun. There's the number of hours, 35 engine hours on the way up, 271 gallons, average of $7.28. I don't know, just some people are interested and see what it's all about. So my girlfriend Rhonda flew up commercially on that next day. She arrived Friday, and I had just gotten there Thursday. I thought, I left a week to get up there. I used the whole dang week. I couldn't have been any later. So I picked her up at the Anchorage airport, and the very next morning was what they call the ceremonial start of the Iditarod. So they do the start in downtown Anchorage. It's a 14-mile little pre-race. It's really not part of the race. It's really a 14-mile parade. But it's also a big party. People come, they spectate, they cheer on the mushers. You can see here probably the racer is one of the two standing, and then you can actually pay or bid on a ride on one of the sleds in this parade. So it's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. Everybody's excited and cheering. I mean, it was really special to be part of that. And this might be a video. Oh, no, it's not. Well, maybe this one is. Anyway, pretty cool. It's again not part of the race, but it's a ceremonial start of the race, and it's pretty neat. We also were fortunate. We got to go to an event called the Fur Rendezvous, the Fur Rondi. And so I don't know how you feel about animal furs, but we'll just set that aside for the moment. But the trappers that get these furs all winter, this is now the beginning of March, right? This is like March 1 or somewhere around there. This is the auction where they auction those furs off, and it's a live auction. It's pretty a neat slice of history to be there and to be part of that. And there's the auctioneer. Auctioning off the furs. Interesting. So what do we do? So we're staying with our friend Gary McCarthy at Hilltop Strip down here. And after we have a great day at the ceremonial start, our plan is now to they restart the race for real in Willow. And Willow is right here, and they started on Sunday. Okay. So then we got invited by another SuperCub friend, happens to have a cabin out on the Iditarod Trail. And we flew out on that Sunday, and met up with our friend Scooter. And he said, well, I'll bring some, he had a little list of maybe some adult beverages he would like us to bring. And we brought some steaks and some fixins, and we made a nice meal. Because they start in Willow on Sunday, but they aren't out here to Squentna until like maybe 11 or midnight. So we got time to kind of hang out for the evening, have a nice dinner. And then Scooter has a snow machine. They not snowmobiles in Alaska, they're snow machines. And he has a beautiful big snow machine, and he borrows his neighbor's snow machine for Rhonda and I. So we go there, we got this wonderful meal, we have a great time. He's like, come on, we got snow machines. And so we snow machine 25 miles from his cabin down to the Squentna checkpoint. And there's Scooter and I in front of, and we landed on Shell Lake. That's where his cabin is. This is Scooter's cabin. You know, there's no electricity out there. So he's got solar panels on it. He's got wood heat. There's a picture of Scooter's PA-12 next to my SuperCub down on the lake in front of the cabin. There's the view from the cabin. I mean, he's really close to the Alaska range. I mean, it's a beautiful part of the world, but it's remote. So here we are. I pointed, that little arrow is pointing the thing. You can see the airport, where his house is here, and we had to get over here 25 miles, and we followed part on the Squentna River, and we also were on the Iditarod Trail for part of that, and it was what a neat thing. So at 9 o'clock at night after dinner, we bundle up, we hop on the snow machines, and we're off onto a run to the checkpoint so we can greet the mushers. Scooter had some he saw how we were equipped, and he said, oh, that's not going to work in these temps. I got something for you. So I think that's a Wolverine hat that Rhonda got on. It's one of the warmest, she says to this day, it's the warmest hat she's ever worn. Unbelievable. So here we are at the Squentna checkpoint, the Squentna Roadhouse. So the Squentna checkpoint is still got quite a few spectators there. It's about a 9-hour snow machine ride from Dashka Landing. So you can get here from the road system on a snow machine. So there's a lot of people that come out here because there's a lodge there, and they set these big bonfires up, and they wait for the Iditarod teams to show up. I'm sorry, I don't want to be in your way. And we kind of did the thing. So here we are. This is at the Squentna checkpoint. We're hanging out, trying to stay warm. And here are the lead mushers coming into the checkpoint. And you can see the spectators, and I don't remember, it was around midnight or something like that. It was really, really a neat place to be. It was just a special event. You'll see that was the first musher into the checkpoint was Ryan Reddington. Ryan was the eventual winner that year of the Iditarod. So we stayed at Scooter's that night. He actually, and I had a picture, and I took it out, but there was an historic cabin on the route between his cabin and this place where we went. It was called the Yentna cabin, safety cabin. And it was kind of neat because it was there. It's over 100 years old, but it was a cabin for people if they needed assistance while they're out in the winter. It was just a little cabin with a wood stove in it, but always when you leave the cabin, you leave dry firewood there for the next person that may need it. It was really neat. I took it out here, but so now this is Monday. We spent the day up at the Rainy Pass checkpoint, and it's on Puntilla Lake. It's about 100 miles away from where we were the day before. And it was just one of these spectacular days. It wasn't good for mushing because it was probably above freezing, maybe almost 40 degrees, but it was no wind, bright sunshine, 40 degrees on in the Alaska range with mountains poking up all the way around us. Here's Ryan Reddington's team. I'll speak just to a moment. So, they talk about Iditarod being cruel to the dogs. And if you have an opportunity to go see this race and experience it and be right there, you go, I don't know how that is. Now, these dogs are elite athletes, and they're running hard. And they do get injured, just like a lot of athletes. But when the mushers get to a checkpoint, the first thing they do is they take care of their dogs. They water their dogs. They feed their dogs. They bed their dogs down. They get bales of straw flown ahead. All this is flown ahead for them by the Iditarod Air Force. And once their dogs are taken care of, and this might be they're starting out with 16 dogs. Once their dogs are taken care of, they go tend to themselves. They might have been up for days. They're dead tired. They're probably hungry. They take care of their dogs. And it's an amazing thing to see. They care about these dogs a lot. They have a veterinarian stationed at every checkpoint. And here's a volunteer veterinarian, checking the dogs. Every dog is checked at every checkpoint by a veterinarian. And then it was one of these spectacular days with not any kind of cool airplanes around at all. So this is a beaver. It's still got the radial engine. He's got retractable wheel skis. You can't believe the number of airplanes that landed on Pentilla Lake that day. So it's a tourist destination, and I heard it's thousands and thousands of dollars to get a seat on one of these planes to go out here. And I'm thinking, well, that's kind of cool that we just flew ourselves out here. Here's one of the mushers. I don't remember his name, but here he is. He just got done taking care of his dogs, and now he's got the press with a microphone in it. But he was doing an interview. There's another musher. I think they're just taking off out of Pentilla Lake, which is called the Rainy Pass Checkpoint. There's a picture of some of the dogs. I'll tell you, the dogs they love what they're doing. And a little bit later, I'll talk some more about it. Here's some more of the planes. That one on the left is a PA-14. And one on the right's 180. There's a different flavor of a beaver. For those that are familiar with looking at airplanes, you might notice that's a turboprop beaver. I think that'd be kind of fun to have. Yeah. Oh, good point. Good point. You want to go next time? A turbine otter. So there was loads of turbine otters with tourists up there. And there's where we were. I don't know if everybody can see the planes in the bottom. The yellow plane on the right is my SuperCub buried in the mix of all those. But look at that mountain behind us. That's part of the Alaska range. I mean, it's the beauty is breathtaking. And again, sunshine, 40 degrees, no wind. This doesn't happen up there. It was a beautiful day. And nobody was having fun up there at all. There's the Cub, and it looks maybe a little outside, a little small, doesn't it? A bunch of turbine otters right next to it. And it's funny, here I am up here, and Jeff will know, who we ran up to up here? Dave Calkins. And this is a guy that helped Jeff and I on a previous trip up there. So it's just a small world. Yeah, another shot of a beaver. I'm sorry I got too many airplane pictures, but this crowd probably won't object too much. Again, there's my lowly SuperCub next to some big hardware. And there we are having our pulled pork and coleslaw sandwiches. So everybody knows about airport food, right? Airport food is freaking expensive. So here we are. We're at an airport. We had airport food. Pulled pork and coleslaw and a drink. $50 a plate. Rhonda said, "Oh, no. I said, well, we're hungry, whatever, you know." And there's Ryan Reddington leaving the checkpoint. A lot of times they want to get good rest for their dogs, so a lot of times they won't overnight at a checkpoint because there's too much commotion. So they'll pick up their supplies, they'll pick up the dog food, they'll pick up their bale of hay. I don't see it here. And then they go out on the trail somewhere and set up their overnight on the trail. But Ryan was the winner that year, so it was kind of neat to see Ryan a couple times on the trail. And so now, as you know, this is the Rainy Pass checkpoint in Puntilla Lake, right? And you can see the Alaska Range is right here, right? This is the Alaska Range. What I'm showing you now, well, I'm showing you a couple things. This is the Iditarod Trail that goes up through the pass. And then if you go around here down south, we happen to have the gentleman I mentioned earlier, Gary, that I stayed at his place earlier. So Gary's got a cabin not too far from the Iditarod Trail, a little farther down. And Gary says, well, why don't we go stay at my cabin for a few nights? And so we, again, very, very fortunate to have friends like these. And we stayed right on the South Fork of the Kuskokwim River. And I think it was, right down here where Gary's cabin is. And so we overnighted there after the day on Rainy Lake. Gary met us there. And this is looking across from Gary's cabin to the other side of the river. We are in the Alaska Range. There are mountains over here. There's mountains over here. There's mountains all the way around us. It was a spectacular place to be. This picture just doesn't do it justice, as we all know. I mean, it was a neat spot. And there's another picture, Gary's cub. You might not be able to see there in mine. And you can see the preheat. There's a lot of them use Honda generators. If you got for preheating, it's really, really nice for when you don't have a heat source or electricity. There's a picture of Gary's cub looking over at the mountain across the South Fork of the Kuskokwim. There's Gary's cabin. Every stick, every board, every piece of that cabin was flown out to this spot, 2-hour flight from town, on Gary's SuperCub. Gary built this himself and carried everything in a SuperCub. Now, what they carry in a SuperCub, Atlee Dodge lumber rack, they put 4x8 sheets of plywood under the SuperCub. 4x8 sheet of plywood, you can do about a 9-inch stack. You can't believe what they can do with it. I don't know. He's had this cabin for 25, 40, 30 years. I mean, a long time. And it's kind of one of these things, you start out small and then, I want a loft. I need an outbuilding. I need so it grows over time because you just can't do it all at once. Now, the guy right across the river from Gary, a guy named Dave Cruz, owns a construction company in Palmer. He built this cabin in a week. He pre-built it and he hired otters to fly it all out there for him. And he brought a big contingent of his crew and they built it in a week. And it's beautiful. But that's a different deal. Just neat shot of, these are some ice climbing screws. I don't know if you've ever seen these, but they screw into the ice and we were on the river there. And those are our tie down points. It's kind of a neat little tool to have along. There's our good friend Gary McCarthy. If you notice his snow machine, he's got a plywood box on the back. He's got a shovel. He's got snowshoes. He's got big mitts on the handlebars. That's how a snow machine looks in Alaska. You don't go out without all the equipment because you might be digging yourself out. You might be walking home. So pretty interesting. It's the real deal. There's his dogs, Kessie and Annie. They fly in the back of the Cub. In fact, he puts his wife in the back seat, and those two dogs go in the baggage. But his wife wasn't with us that trip. But Kessie and Annie were with us and that's what I call the Alaska cell tower. So that's Caribou Rack, and we use the inReaches, right? Satellite communicators. So the satellite communicators, we're Bluetoothing to them from inside the cabin from our phones, but they're out getting a good view of the sky outside. So what do we do now? Well, now we got our jumping off point. You know, we're in the Alaska range, but we're going to start, we're using that as our base camp, and then we're going to do day trips out. So now we're going to go to the Roan checkpoint, which is kind of the first checkpoint on the far side of the Alaska range. Here we're flying through a pass called Hell's Gate. Anybody want to guess why it's called Hell's Gate? Well, it's a notch in the Alaska range. And the Alaska range is this barrier from west to east. And the wind blows a lot. Can you imagine what the wind does through this pass? That's why it's called Hell's Gate. It funnels through here like a Venturi and gets going well over 100 miles an hour on times. We had a great flight through it. But that's the South Fork of the Kuskokwim going right through the Alaska range. That's flying over one of the teams on the Iditarod Trail. So that's, I see they're down to about what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 dogs at this point. So I don't know what team this was, but they've obviously had some dogs that weren't holding up real well, and they probably shed 4 dogs. And it's, you know, they just have gotten through the Alaska range at this point. This is probably just after this next checkpoint. So we went to Roan, which was a neat little spot. It's in the middle of nowhere. And the next place we went to was a little town called Nikolai. Now, Nikolai, I mean, now we are out on the far side of the Alaska range, and the crowds are gone. I mean, the only people here are the mushers, the volunteers, a few of the press, and us, and the locals. It was just neat because we're right there. We're with the mushers. We're with the volunteers. We're right in the middle of all of this stuff. It was so cool. It's a native village of 88 people. And it's not, I mean, it's there's nothing there. I mean, it's really remote. They're taking some of the dogs that teams are dropping because the dogs are injured, or, you know, they're flying them back. That's a Cherokee 6. You can't believe how many dogs they get in a Cherokee 6. Here's a little picture. I thought it was just a cool spot. They got a little wall tent set up with a heater in it, and this is at the Nikolai checkpoint. There's a picture of the teams bedded down, right? So I think it was still pretty warm that day. They like to mush at night. The sled dogs can't handle above freezing. They just get overheated. They like cold temperatures. So I think the day was just too nice again. So they run during the night and they bed them down during the day. And there's an example again of the mushers came in there. They've been running for a number of days. They're exhausted. They water the dogs, they feed their dogs, and they bed them down. And then they go take care of themselves. There's another picture. They start with about, I think all the teams are 16. And there's a minimum. You have to finish with 6. So I think, you know, the dogs get sore. I mean, they're athletes. They're working like crazy. They get sore. I think there are some that get injured worse than that. The worst is running into a moose on the trail, and I don't really want to get into that because the snow is really deep in parts of the trail. And I said I wasn't going to get into it, but the moose are struggling. They're standing in belly deep snow, and they're struggling to get around. So where do they want to go? They want to go on the Iditarod Trail. It's like, oh, this is packed down. I can walk easily on here. This is wonderful. Right up until the time a dog team comes by. So it can be a little bit of a challenge on occasion. So here's the neat thing about Nikolai. Little native village of 82 people. The school gymnasium is set up for lunches and meals. The kids are in classes on the other end of the school, but here we are, you know, you walk in and it's like the church ladies are there. And I don't mean that in any bad way. I think everybody gets it. They got homemade everything. They're taking care of us. This is some of the kids, you know, but here's the school gymnasium. They got it set up. They got a bake sale going on. They got chili for us. They got everything. But what's really cool is we're in here. We're with the mushers We're with the volunteers. We're with the veterinarians. We're here with the village people. I mean, this is a slice of life. I mean, this is one of my favorite places, on the trail. We just had such it wasn't like Puntilla Lake was like, whoa, big and grand. And this was just quaint, quiet, and special. So we kept going a little further. We still had to get back to Gary's that night. We got out to McGrath, and that's as far as west as we got because we had heard that weather was coming in. They were going to have freezing rain in McGrath that night. We didn't want our airplane out in freezing rain. And we also heard wind was going to come up big. And Gary says, we got to get out of here on Wednesday. And we were hoping to be out longer. And Gary's like, no, we got to get out of here on Wednesday. He knew when the wind came up and you're in the mountains, you can't be there. So we spent a little bit of time in McGrath. I think we stopped at a grocery store, reprovisioned a little bit. There was a little bit of snow in McGrath. Rhonda saw that on top of that van, and we thought, oh, that's just too cool. And so then we got back to Gary's that night. Maybe that's a little better picture, show you in the middle of the Alaska Range, just a neat spot. So what do we got now? Well, we got to get out of here. We still got the rest of the week, but we can't go any further on the trail. So, we're going to fly back to Gary's place in town. And we said, we're not too far from Denali. I mean, we're in the Alaska Range. Denali's right here. Let's go see how close we can get to Denali. Now, for anybody that's been up to Alaska, I bet a few people have. Denali, you can only see it about 30% of the time, right? Because it's in the clouds. But we actually had another pretty good day. And we decided to fly. And we're down here south off of the thing. But we went up and we flew up the Kahiltna Glacier. And the Kahiltna Glacier goes right up to base camp where the mountaineers start for their going up to summit Denali. And they were actually starting to coming out to base camp in March of the year already. There's Kahiltna Glacier that we went up. There's a shot of the glacier. That's from like a GoPro on the wing. But you can see the glacier coming down here. And this is one of the major glaciers up there that goes almost all the way up to Denali. There's some pictures of flying over the glacier. It's interesting to watch the texture on the glaciers because down low, you'll see the glacier and you look down and it's trees. Well, wait a minute and say, oh yeah, there's ice under those trees. So what happens is the glacier comes down the mountain, it scrubs rock off the mountain. And actually they call it glacial till. And that till keeps going down, and the farther down you go, more and more of the ice melts, and all of a sudden, what's left is all this rock and this debris. And actually, over hundreds of years, trees will start growing on it. Now, this is a little bit farther up the glacier. If you can see, there's a little bit of snow on top of the ice. And that snow, is snow that's still left over from the winter. Now, we're here in March, so a little after it. But, I mean, there's a little example of flying up the valley, again, some spectacular scenery. Rhonda's obviously taken this from the back seat, I think. So we got done with that day. We spend the rest of the day in a little mountain town called Talkeetna. Great day. But we still got a couple days. I think Rhonda flies out. We both fly out on Sunday. And we still got a couple days to go. And the locals say, oh, well, you got to go up to this place. And we're on the ground now. I mean, the weather has gotten really, really bad. They said, you got to go up to Chena Hot Springs. So this is a neat spot. This is up. So this is out of Fairbanks. So we drive 7.5 hours north to go to this beautiful hot springs. And this is hot springs that they've built rocks around it, and they got a gravel bottom. It's either some of the most beautiful pools you've ever been in. But the water's coming right out of the ground hot, and we had a great time. So there you go. Thank you very much. That was my trip. And I feel so fortunate to have made friendships with folks that allowed that to make that possible. Any questions?
Cover the engine cowling a little bit in the front because of the cold air. Otherwise, you're going to have pipe cooling, right?
Yeah, I taped up probably half of the inlets, and then I tape over my oil cooler. And between those two, the engine didn't complain at all. I mean, it did well. Yeah, I mean, it was cold, right? But I mean, I had my Carhartts on, I had the heater on, so I'm in the airplane, and it's cool, but I'm comfortable. I'm not freezing. I'm not miserable. I'm flying along, having a good time. I reach back to get a drink out of the back seat. It's frozen. So that was on the way up, and I thought, this is going to be a problem because I'm on the way up. I'm doing this. I'm feeling good, but I reach in the back seat, and the drink is frozen. So Rhonda's going to be sitting back there shortly. This is going to be an issue. So, and then I had in Yorkton, Saskatchewan that night, it was minus 42. I was inside an unheated hangar, and I had a preheat on the engine. Engine was warm. Everything was good. Battery wasn't so happy. So in Fort St. John, British Columbia, I stopped at a Canadian Tire, which is, Tractor Supply or whatever, but it's there. I bought a battery blanket, a plug-in battery blanket, totally solved the battery problem. And I bought a 12-volt cigarette lighter adapter rear seat heating pad. And I know Rhonda liked it because the comment was when she got on it, she said, "Why haven't we had one of these before?" Go ahead. Well, we had the hot tent. We were gonna tent out that night. I had a wood stove that I bought, a small tent wood stove. I ran out of room. I had wing covers, tail cover, cowl cover, 2 minus 80-degree Wiggy sleeping bags, all the emergency gear for 2 people. I had every square inch of that SuperCub filled. And then I got my wood stove. This wood stove. So I had a little propane heater that I brought, and it supposedly would run 5 hours on a propane bottle. So I had 6 bottles with me just in case. We never did use the tent, right? But if you need it, you need it. If you have an emergency, you better get in that tent because you're going to freeze in a hurry. But we had Gary invited us to stay with us at his house and then at his cabin, Scooter at his cabin in between. So, we just stayed with friends, and it really, it was amazing. So, but we were prepared to get a hotel. I did on the way up. I stayed in a hotel in Tok, Alaska for a night right across the street from the airport. It's kind of a neat hotel with a restaurant on the front called Fast Eddie's. Every aviator that's gone back and forth to Alaska knows about Fast Eddie's because it's a standard stop. It's a great place, great food. And I'm thinking, I stayed in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. I stayed in a hotel, and it was kind of interesting that night. You go to the hotel, and it's like a Fairfield Inn or something. It's just a big box, right, with cars parked all the way around it. But in front of every parking spot, all the way around the hotel, every parking spot, there's a 4x4 post about this high with an electrical outlet on it for plugging your vehicle in. It's like, oh yeah, we're not in Wisconsin anymore, are we? Other questions? Yeah. Yeah. So I went up there. Took me a week to fly up. We spent about a week flying around in Iditarod. I wish it was a little longer, but that's just what we got. Flew back commercially, left my plane up there. And then I thought, I don't know, everybody know, almost all airplanes up there in Alaska are stored outside because there are no hangars. You just can't find a hangar. It's the worst place in the world to leave your plane outside, but that's where they are. So I talked to my friend Gary. I'm up there. I said, Gary, what do you think? What's the chances of me finding a hangar? I want to leave my plane up here for a few weeks. Why do I want to fly back in the winter too, in the cold? I'll leave it up here, and then I'll come back in the spring, and we'll fly around a little bit, enjoy it a second time, won't have to make the trip, and then fly back in much nicer weather. So Jim and Joe flew up, and right in the beginning of May, and I shipped my bush wheels up there, and then I shipped the skis back. So now I'm on bush wheels. And then we had a great, I think Jim and Joe spent 3 weeks because they spent 4 or 5 days getting up there. And then we flew around. it was coincident to the Alaska the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering, or what it's called. It was going on, and I represented the RAF there, so I kind of did a little bit of volunteer work with it. But it was great. I mean, it was a great trip. Did I answer your question? Yeah. Yeah, so it's not nearly as available in Canada as it is here in the U.S. I don't know why, but they say regulation, everything killed general aviation in Canada. There's just not many people flying up there like we have. We're very fortunate here. And when you get to fly in places like Canada and other places, you realize how fortunate we are. But if you plan it, if you use a tool like ForeFlight, you'll see, hey, there's actually fuel stops. But you have to, number one, call ahead, make sure they really, really have the fuel, because if you get there and they don't have it, you're really pooched. Number two, find out if it's credit card or pay only. If it's, a lot of times, our first time up, Jeff Plants and I in 2018, I would say more than 50% of the places, they pumped it for you. So that meant if you got there late, there was a call out fee and all the rest. But so call ahead, make sure they have fuel, make sure if they have a credit card machine, is it working? Just be really diligent about all that. And you can find the fuel. Now, out in farther in Alaska in the bush, you can still find fuel, but it gets harder and harder. We never got out to a point where we couldn't get it. And I had kind of planned it. We were hoping to get a little farther out on the trail, and McGrath had fuel. I can't remember if I carried some out to Gary's or not. My SuperCub has two 48-gallon tanks, or two 24s for 48 gallons. So, I have about 6.5 hours of fuel in the Cub. That really helps a lot. And I do have bush wheel bags. They're fuel bags that I can carry. I can't remember. I might have carried a few of those up to the cabin, because you're up there in the remote. You can carry another 10 gallons or, hour and a half of fuel. Other questions? Neil?
The first picture, looking down at your feet, I noticed there was an insulated wrap around the controls. Is that normal, or was that?
No, that was just my normal grip. It just happens to be a big, thick, foamy grip that I got in Alaska, so maybe that was part of it. But I've had it for a while. It's just a real big, thick, foamy grip. So yeah, I don't know if that made anything, but the heat tube, the rear heat tube, pulled forward and blowing up on my hands, that worked really well. So yeah, it was good. I didn't realize how good of a job I did getting my airplane prepared for winter when I rebuilt it, because a lot of these mods I added, and with the thought that someday, but here I am, I'm like, oh boy, did that work well for me. And I was just following in the footsteps of people ahead of me. People in Alaska all have these mods on their airplanes already. They know about them. Ooh, now it's almost 3 years ago here. The question is, was there anything I wished I would have taken or I had forgotten? I couldn't fit anything else in the airplane. I was full. So I probably had too much stuff. But you got emergency stuff. You never use it because you never had an emergency. But you got to carry it. If it'll save your life if you do have an emergency. So, the rear heat seat pad and the battery heater, I bought on the trip. So, yeah, Rhonda really, I can't express how good that was to get that rear heat pad. She would have been miserable back there. There's no heat in the back of a SuperCub. I have a rear seat heat tube that I would have taken off my hands and snaked in the back, yeah, it would have been a problem. But that heated pad, she was toasty. And again, you tape up everything. You can't have any cold air blowing on you. You're done. But yeah, so you're not in the middle of nowhere. You are for parts of the trip, but other parts of the trip, you're in a big city with this Canadian Tire was as big as Fleet Farm up in DeForest. So, they had whatever I wanted. Anything else? Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.